Welcome to the Daily Tanya. Today is Thursday, the 6th day of Tishrei, and today the additional chapters in Tehillim is chapter 103, 104, 105. Let's begin with Tzedakah Gedela, Tzedakah Shemekareves Esageula. Tzedakah brings Mashiach closer. So today, the 6th day of Tishrei, is actually the yahrzeit of the Rebbe's mother, Rebbe Tzimchana. And the Rebbe's mother was a very, very special woman. She dedicated herself, her life, for her husband. When Rebbe's father was a big Kabbalist and was arrested and was exiled in Kazakhstan, and she, with Mesiras Nefesh, self-sacrifice, she sacrificed herself and she went along with him. And one of the things she did, she prepared ink for the Rebbe's father to be able to write his teachings in the Kabbalah, which we benefit from today. So many books that is written only because of that. And then she came here to America. And the Rebbe was very, very extra careful in honoring his mother, always coming to visit. And there was a cute story I heard yesterday. That was once the Rebbe came back from the Ohel, and Rabbi Krinsky drove him, and he told Rabbi Krinsky to take him straight to his mother's place. It was in Kingston Avenue and President Street in Brooklyn. And he came there, stopped the car, the Rebbe came out, and his mother was actually outside with children. And the Rebbe came out of the car, walked towards his mother. And when he came to the mother, the mother tells the Rebbe, "Geh yahen, go home." The Rebbe was surprised. "Why are you telling me go home?" So she says, "Because you didn't eat today." So the Rebbe says, "How do you know I didn't eat today?" So she says, "Because you went to the Ohel." The Ohel is the Rebbe's father-in-law's, the previous Rebbe's resting place. So the Rebbe says, "How do you know I went to the Ohel?" So she she pointed to the car, says, "Yudel is here." The Rebbe would usually walk from 770, which was not a far walk, to his mother's house. And now that she saw the car there, she understood that he's coming back from the Ohel. So the Rebbe burst out smiling, and the Rebbe was smiling, laughing. So that was a cute story. The Rebbe, you're talking about the Lubavitcher Rebbe, but his mother is the mother of the Rebbe, making sure that the Rebbe would have something to eat. So Schusa Yagan Elena may her merit defend us, be a protective defense attorney for all of us. And so let's begin with the Tanya. This is a nice story, but preparing to the deeper teachings of the Tanya of today, as we are in the midst of a very deep chapter 20 in Igeret HaKodesh. And we're talking about the creation, the ultimate, as we mentioned, this is the Alter Rebbe wrote this in the last days of his life in this world. And ultimately, the Alter Rebbe explains the specialty of this physical world. And yesterday we were discussing about the difference between creation, yesh me'ayin, something out of nothing, and everything else, which is ila ve'olul, cause and effect. When you have a cause and effect, there is a link, there is a direct connection, and therefore when you see, you feel where you're coming from, what is your source, what is your root, you obviously don't feel yourself as independent entity. You realize and you're nullified to your source, to where you come from. But in order to create a physical entity, the only way that this can happen is through a creation. This type of creation, which is something from nothing. And Alter Rebbe now goes on to tell us, where does this begin? This creation, the beginning of the Yesh HaNivra, the feeling of the self, this in general begins from the world of Beria. Beria, also the translation of the word Beria means creation. But as we explained in the previous lessons, you have the spiritual worlds, you have the four different worlds, Atzilus, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya. Atzilus is world of emanation, there is godly emanation. And in general, the beginning of feeling self begins in the world of Beria. After contractions, there is the ability, the element of creations that feel themselves as as a separate entity. Now, not completely separate entity like we feel ourselves here, obviously, because in the world, the higher world, they're still in a very high level connected to Hashem. But the fact that it can be identified as a separate entity, as a separate being, that itself is the beginning mainly in the world of Beria. Now, the Rebbe goes on to say also that this is, that can be also the concept of feeling yourself as a self, as a yesh, can be in different levels, even in the world of Atzilus also. Not that they feel themselves there as separate, but it is not like the plain light of Hashem, which is undefined. In the world of Atzilus, also, although it's a world of emanation, there is a difference between the light and the vessels of Atzilus. The vessels of Atzilus is this factor that brings definition to the light. Now, a plain light turns and becomes a light that is chesed, a light that is gevura, a light that is kindness, a light that is judgment, and so on. So the definition, that is already giving the light a more of a limitation. So that is also, in essence, also considered some kind of a yesh. It calls it the yesh hanetzal, the yesh, the being that is emanated being, but still not the same as the plain light, which has no definitions whatsoever. So let's see inside again. It is deep and complicated, but we'll try to understand it as much as possible. So having explained in general terms why the creation of a substantial yesh from spirituality can only come about in a matter of ex nihilo, which is something from nothing, and not in a manner of ila and olol, cause and effect. The Alter Rebbe goes on to explain that the first stage of the created yesh is in the kelim of the 10 sephiros of the world of Beria, Yetzirah, and Asiya, the vessels of the 10 attributes of the three worlds, Beria, Yetzirah, and Asiya. For though they are considered spheres, and as such, they constitute the divinity in these three worlds, the kelim of these sephiros already comprise an element of yesh. This is true even within the world of Atzilus, except that there the kelim are emanated as yesh hanetzal, implying connectedness to their source, rather than created as yesh hanivra, implying separateness from their source. So this is the difference between the vessels in the world of Atzilus, which feel themselves connected, and the kelim in the world of Beria and Yetzirah and Asiya, which are considered separate. So let's begin with the Alter Rebbe's words. Ve'ine, reishis yesha nivra tchilasoi, hein hakelim the yud spheres that the Bria, Yetzirah, Asiya, v'gam oirois nefesh ruach. This is now the kelim of the 10 sephiros of Beria, Yetzirah, and Asiya, and also the oiros, lights, nefesh and ruach. We'll explain this in a minute. They're the first stage and the beginning of created substantiality. So we're talking about the vessels of the 10 Sephiros, of Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. And it says also the light. We have the vessels and we have the light. The light is the spirituality of it. The vessels is what defines it, gives it a definition. But in the light itself, just like the light of the soul of a human being, we have also different elements to the soul. There is what's called nefesh, ruach, and neshama in general. The three levels. Nefesh is the part of the soul that animates the action of the person. Ruach is a part of the soul that animates the emotions. Neshama is more of the spiritual part, something that connects to the higher, the greater than you, outside of you. That is the higher level of the soul. And the same thing is also in the lights that animates the higher spiritual world. You have also these three elements of the lights. You have the element of nefesh of the light, element of ruach, and element of neshama. So in this lower two, the element of nefesh and ruach, there you also have already the element of yesh, like a separate thing, like something which is defined already. It's not the pure connectedness without any limitation. And it says, "V'nivru mibchinas haneshama the yud sfiras, the bria yetzira asiya shehu elokus." Now the kelim, the vessels, were created from the category of neshama, which is the highest level of the 10 spheres of bria, yetzira, and asiya. This neshama of the 10 spheres being divinity, meaning the godliness of the spheres creates the yesh of the kelim, of the sephiros, and also their nefesh and ruach. V'hei nalamed kelim the malchus the atzilus, and these iris of the sephiros, these lights of the sephiros, they are the 30 kelim, the 30 vessels of the sphere of malchus of the world of atzilus. Now, in general, I'm talking about the attributes. The attribute of the lowest of the attributes is called malchus. Malchus is what relates to the next world. Just like as Isaiah says, malchus pei. Malchus is like the mouth. Just like the human being. How do you relate to outside of you? You're using the speech, words. So the words, the speech relates yourself to the outside of you. So it says there is a concept of 30 vessels of Malchus of Atzilus. And again, because each attribute is made out of 10 attributes, each level. And the 10 attributes also, they have what they call them, the Toich, Soif, and Roish. You have the beginning, you have the end, and you have the inside, the inner part, and each one of them relates to a different element, a different aspect of those vessels. Just like, again, using the example of speech, you have the inner part of the speech, and you have the external part of the speech. When you listen to words being uttered by someone, what do you have? You have the words. The words is the external aspect of the speech. These words, they carry within them something very deep, and that is the pnimius of Malchus, the inner part. That is something that only the person himself knows. That is not necessarily given out in the words. So here the same thing, you have this concept of going down from level to level using these elements of Malchus of Atzilus. So the Rebbe goes on and says that even in the world of Atzilus, where the world of Atzilus is a world of emanation, godliness, there too there is also somewhat an element of yesh, of separate entity. It is like what in Atzilus that the emanated yesh derives from the external aspect of the kelim of Atzilus. Mechitzonius akelim, the Yud Tzviras d'Atzilus, she'ein alakus, nivu aicholos d'Atzilus. From the chitzonius, from the external aspect of the kelim of the 10 sephiras of Atzilus, which are godliness, were created the eichalot, the celestial chambers of Atzilus. So unlike the kelim and sephiras, in which there is vested the internal level of the oiros, of the lights, these eichalot are an external aspect of the world of Atzilus, and in them, it says the Alter Rebbe, there is the type of light that's called igulim, the circles. There is a light that's called the kav, the straight line, and there's a light that's called the circles. What this represents, the kav represents a light that goes straight, and it is a light that fits the vessels, and the circles is like an encompassing light, a light which does not lower and filter itself to be vested inside the vessels. So in order to create this element, this aspect of the hichalot, which is already the yesh of Atzilus, there you have the light, which is a greater light, the light of this encircling light. Shemislavish be'emchinas igulim, the Yud Spheres, in which the category of igulim, of the 10 spheres, vest itself. And then the Alter Rebbe goes on and says, also there is also angels. Angels in general are connected with the world of Beria, the world of creation. They're already a separate being. But even in the world of Atzilus, there's also higher levels of angels, which are in the world of Atzilus. Now, angels also have bodies and souls. The body of an angel is also the definition of the angel. What the angel is created for? The soul of the angel is the godliness within the angel. So it says, "V'gam gufei samalachim d'Atzilus shehin p'chinas yesh," and also the bodies of the angels of Atzilus, which are a form of yesh, they are created from the external kelim of the spheres of Atzilus. As it is written, and his angels are charged with deficiency. When it says his angels, meaning the angels of Atzilus. Because they are not wholly in a state of nullification as the alul is in relation to its ilah. When you have an alul and an ilah, the cause and an effect, they're in complete nullification. But the angels, the bodies of the angels, which it says, they are not in total nullification, for they are created in a manner of yesh from ayin, from something from nothing. So this concept, this element of something from nothing, the Alter Rebbe explains, is in general begins in the world of Beria, but in a more subtle form, the concept of yesh from ayin also exists even in the higher world, including even in the world of Atzilus. So this is the end of today's shir. Hopefully you understood something, because I'm trying to wrap my head around this. Not easy. And Mr. Hashem will continue and get more explanations tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.